Let's turn now to the humanitarian and political crisis unfolding in Haiti. Today, the Caribbean country finds itself without a single elected government official. Earlier this week, the terms of the last 10 remaining senators officially expired, and the country has been in turmoil since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse back in 2021. And it faces a number of catastrophes that range from food shortages to gang violence and economic collapse. So joining us now to discuss is award-winning journalist Garry Pierre-Pierre. He is the founder and publisher of the Haitian Times. Garry, always good to see you, but not under circumstances like this. Can you describe for our viewers what the situation is right now in Haiti?
Well, thanks for having me, Vlad and Anne-Marie. What's happening in Haiti right now is yet another development of the crisis that has gripped the country since the assassination of Jovenel Moïse, as you mentioned. And so with no functioning government, we are in uncharted territory. We are approaching constitutional chaos. And so as the gangs and other bad actors continue their reign of terror on the population, that can't seem to catch a break.
So what does that mean, though, for ordinary, regular Haitians day to day? I mean, with no functioning government, are government employees being paid? What's the electricity like? Do people have access to food? What's it like there?
Well, it's very difficult for people. I mean, I can't really describe the level of dire poverty and difficulty that people are facing. Most Haitians who can leave have left Haiti a while ago. So what you're saying is that those who are stuck essentially in Haiti, and it's very difficult. Gas has skyrocketed to the point where it's unaffordable for the average person. Food shortage is chronic. And you have insecurity. There's gang warfare being waged every day. I have a relative who lives in Haiti and who will tell me every day the hardship that they're living under.
So, Garry, it's a common question that are asked by both Haitians in Haiti and the diaspora. International intervention. What's the possibility of seeing foreign troops on the ground in Haiti?
Well, the debate is like, do we need another intervention? Because we've had a few of them in the last decades or so, and they've ended up, by all accounts, not very good for Haiti or the international community. And so the question now is, what kind of force? I believe that something has to be done. I think there has to be a very limited police intervention because to pacify and to dismantle the gangs, eventually set the scene for elections so we can come back to some democratic process, because right now we are in uncharted territory, like I said.
Garry Pierre-Pierre, thank you so much for giving us a sense of what's happening in Haiti right now.
Thanks for having me.
And joining us now for more analysis is Dr. Bertrhude Albert. She is the CEO of the nonprofit P4H Global. Thank you so much. So let us talk a little bit more about what things are like on the ground. What are the consequences of not having a functioning state?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the question. And as a Haitian American who's dedicating her life to the advancement of the country and who believes that Haiti will rise, I'm honored to join this conversation with you all, especially with you, Vladimir, who's been a Haitian hero of mine. So this beautiful question, what is it like on the ground, specifically now that the senators, the last 10 senators are no longer in their position? The reality of the situation is that Haitians didn't wake up Tuesday morning absolutely shocked at the vacant positions. This isn't something that rattled Haitians because this is something that has been years in the making, decades in the making. So truly, there is a deep systemic problem, and this is just a symptom of a much larger problem. So again, even me, someone who lives in Cap Haitian, I'm glad that you all are interviewing somebody outside of the capital area, because oftentimes they depict it as if everywhere is just like Cap Haitian, just like Port-au-Prince. That just isn't the reality. What's happening with the senators, it is deeply alarming, and it has weakened our system, but at the same time, it doesn't impact us in the way that the world might think it impacts us.
So, Dr. Albert, one of the things that I love, and I encourage our viewers to check out your Instagram and your TikTok pages, because you do a masterful job of giving us context into the situations that Haiti is facing today. You give us historical context. So give us the context that you just mentioned, which is that this has been decades in the making. But more importantly, for the people that are experiencing this today, living this every day, what is the impact on just ordinary Haitians? I know that people outside, and you're absolutely right to point out that oftentimes the images that the media shows are of Port-au-Prince, and that there's an entire country where some of those things that we're seeing on those images are not happening. But just for those people who are suffering right now, what is that context and what's it like?
Certainly. So I'll go back to this great point that you mentioned, Vladimir, the context. In 1804, Haiti gains independence, right? And we become the first free black republic in the world. We're gaining our independence. Ever since that point, Haiti has been fighting to maintain this independence. Specifically, when we look at Haiti's political and social affairs, oftentimes exterior individuals, exterior institutions, the international community plays a major role within Haitian affairs. And so even specifically with what's happening right now, we see that Haitians are crying out and asking for themselves, for us to be determining the future of Haiti. And so even specifically when we look at the situation in the country and we're looking at how Haitians are hurting. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat this and say that this is all flowers and butterflies. Oh no, Vladimir, this is a threat to democracy in Haiti. This truly is something that is weakening our system. And the daily in Haiti, the biggest thing that we're facing is the economic crisis that we're facing with gas prices over $30. Many Haitians are trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to feed my children? How am I going to survive? How are we going to move forward with schools being closed for months? How are we going to progress in a political situation like this that a lot of Haitians are saying it's partly because we're not able to choose the leaders that are guiding our country?
So this is a simple question with not a simple answer. But, you know, is there a way out of this crisis? Vlad asked our previous guest about international intervention and how Haitians felt about that. But I think there is also some hesitancy among, the U.S., among Canada, because if you go into Haiti, you want to know that there will be a change that you can make that will be permanent, that will be lasting. What are the elements that will lead this country out of this crisis?
And is it a good idea, I think, Doctor? That's the question.
Wonderful question. And these types of questions will bring about a true change in Haiti. What Haiti needs is a Haitian-led solution, one that's not being imposed by D.C. or Ottawa or Paris. We need a solution that is birthed from civil society. And the reality, a lot of people don't know, civil society in Haiti has gotten together and they are proposing leadership. They are proposing solutions, but these solutions aren't being listened to. So again, you'll hear a lot of reporters that really are close to the ground. You'll hear them repeating over and over, and I'm going to echo these cries. Haitians in Haiti want to lead. They want to have a Haitian-led solution that is birthed from civil society.
Bertrhude Albert, it's so good to talk to you on the air, talk about these important issues. And, again, just to reiterate that point, we're showing images of some of the turmoil as you're talking, Doctor, but the reality is that's just a small piece of what's happening. It's in the capital city. There are many Haitians in Cap-Haïtien and other places that are not seeing the turmoil that we're seeing in the capital. But of course, that's where all the action is in the capital in terms of economic opportunity for most people on the island. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We're going to have you back to continue talking about this.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you both.